Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today, we are diving into the book Winners Take All, the 9 Fundamental Rules of High-Tech Strategy. So, this explainer gets right into why second place in tech is, well, it's basically just the first loser. Written by Tony Seba, this playbook shows us exactly how tech giants consolidate power and why those standard business rules you learn in every MBA program across the globe, they just completely break down when software and platforms enter the chat. If you want to know how the biggest companies on earth built those massive, impenetrable moats, you absolutely have to understand these 9 rules. Let's get right into it.
You see, in traditional retail or manufacturing, being the third or maybe fourth competitor can still mean you're running a highly profitable, solid legacy business supporting thousands of employees. But high-tech environments, they default entirely to monopoly-sized winners. The market consolidates so incredibly fast that the top player captures roughly 80% of the overall value. Think about that. That means the number one player takes the absolute lion's share of the profit, the top-tier talent, and all the market relevance, while everyone else is just left fighting over a rapidly shrinking pile of scraps.
Now, this winner-take-most dynamic isn't just a stroke of luck. It's totally driven by this incredible ability to scale at near-zero marginal costs. And the ultimate weapon here, which is actually amazing to see in action, is the network effect. A platform becomes exponentially more valuable with every single new user who joins up. It creates this intense gravitational pull that is almost impossible to escape. Once a leader hits a specific tipping point, this dynamic makes them practically unassailable, which means founders really have to toss out the standard playbooks just to survive that initial growth phase.
So to achieve that kind of crazy dominance, the most successful tech leaders ruthlessly focus on solving an urgent problem. They aren't trying to win these endless, exhausting feature wars. The first 3 rules of Seba's framework are entirely about this relentless prioritization. It's not about building the most impressive underlying technology in a vacuum, right? It's about observing the market, genuinely feeling the friction a customer experiences every single day, and then delivering a surgical, highly precise solution to that exact problem.
The real distinction here is between building a painkiller versus building a vitamin. Think about the last time you downloaded an app. Were you looking for a vitamin, or did you need a painkiller? A vitamin is nice to have. It's pleasant technology. But if you're building a vitamin in a winner-take-all market, you are absolutely going to lose to the company actively curing a headache. Take Craigslist, for example. Founder Craig Newmark didn't build some hyper-complex web infrastructure. He just constantly monitored local forums to identify real bleeding pain points for everyday people. He built a painkiller that solved an immediate issue, which is exactly why Craigslist completely took over the classifieds market.
And here's kind of a harsh reality. Most paid software functionality goes completely unused. A feature is usually just something a company tacks onto a product because it creates a bunch of internal excitement for the engineering team. But complexity doesn't equal progress. Silicon Graphics, or SGI, learned this the hard way. They chased raw, highly expensive graphics power, packing in endless features, while their customers ultimately just wanted affordable, functional PCs to get their daily work done. Value is strictly defined by what the customer actually uses to get an outcome, not what looks coolest in a flashy boardroom presentation. To truly deliver that immense value, you've got to concentrate your resources to dominate a specific beachhead market before you even think about expanding. Hedging your bets only dilutes your commitment. Consider Symantec. They gutted their broader product lines to singularly own internet security, and that hyperfocus is exactly what made them a titan. By contrast, a company like Borland tried to diversify into way too many unrelated development tools all at once. They lost their focus, spread themselves way too thin, and effectively imploded. You have to decisively win your core market first, period.
Once your product genuinely solves a massive pain point, your strategy has to aggressively pivot. Building a great product is really only half the battle. The other half, getting the market to actually adopt it. You have to immediately shift your focus toward how you communicate the product's worth, how you actively mitigate buyer fears, and how you turn your early, tentative users into absolutely aggressive evangelists for your brand. When communicating that value, a clear one-line pitch is always going to beat a dense technical spec sheet. Customers need to instantly grasp your value without wading through industry jargon. Think about how perfectly Skype positioned themselves early on. Free internet telephony that just works. Boom! It tells you the outcome, the price, and the ease of use in seconds. Then look at AT&T's legacy pitch at the time. Your world delivered. Sure, it sounds nice on a billboard, but it means absolutely nothing to a consumer who is just trying to solve a communication problem.
You also have to remember that adopting any new platform carries immense financial and execution risk for the buyer. Put yourself in the shoes of an enterprise customer for a second. They aren't just buying your features. They are taking on the terrifying risk that your startup might fold in 6 months, or that the implementation will be a total disaster that ends up getting them fired. To win, you must actively sell confidence. The top players de-risk the process entirely by offering ironclad guarantees, showcasing very visible expert validation, and providing completely frictionless free trials.
Instead of just chasing purely transactional, one-off deals, market leaders go out and find influential believers. It's actually brilliant how LinkedIn pulled this off. They seeded their early network specifically with venture capitalists. They knew that if the influential investors were there, the highly motivated recruiters looking to fill portfolio companies would inevitably follow. And if the recruiters showed up, the job-seeking candidates would pour in right behind them. They essentially converted powerful champions who did all the heavy lifting and organically pulled the broader market into the ecosystem.
Accelerating that kind of rapid momentum requires building a frictionless environment around your product. This means forming strategic alliances where both sides genuinely need each other. A perfect example of this is Google's early defensive stake in AOL. By partnering to provide the search engine for AOL's massive user base, Google extended its reach incredibly fast while simultaneously blocking out early competitors. When you partner well, you create a complete, seamless solution that a customer can adopt without having to piece everything together themselves.
This is exactly why low friction will almost always beat raw technological superiority. Take the early battle for internet calling. Vonage might have had great tech, but they asked users to buy new physical hardware and run through a complex, frustrating installation process. That is a massive barrier to entry for the average consumer. Skype, on the other hand, they were purely software. You downloaded it and you were talking to your family overseas in 3 minutes flat. They crushed the competition simply by making that very first useful experience utterly immediate.
We see this exact same principle play out in hardware. Apple's iPod wasn't just a music player with a massive hard drive. It was a complete, easy-to-adopt ecosystem that seamlessly integrated the physical hardware with the iTunes software and a digital storefront. While competitors were out there trying to sell isolated pieces of hardware based purely on storage specs, Apple sold the easiest possible way to acquire, organize, and listen to music. They won the entire market by making the entire customer journey absolutely effortless from start to finish.
But surviving the tech landscape is a relentless, exhausting pursuit. The final rule of high-tech strategy comes with a severe warning. Success inevitably breeds complacency. When a company wins a category, human nature and traditional management instincts tell leadership to build thick walls and just protect those profits. But in high-tech, fiercely protecting your existing business model is quite literally the fastest way to invite your own disruption.
It requires a brutal necessity for self-cannibalization. True winners have to aggressively disrupt themselves before competitors can do it for them. Think about the incredible discipline it took for Steve Jobs and Apple to look at the iPod, which was their most profitable, world-dominating product at the time, and say, we have to be the ones to kill this. By putting a phone, an internet communicator, and an iPod into one single device, they intentionally cannibalized their own market. But if they hadn't done it, someone else surely would have left them in the dust.
If you falsely assume your current dominance is permanent and you refuse to adapt to shifting value chains, you risk fatal denial. This is exactly what destroyed legendary titans like Kodak and DEC. Kodak famously kept fiercely protecting their highly profitable chemical film business, while the true existential threat was actually coming from a completely different digital paradigm. You simply cannot fight a massive category shift by trying to make the old, dying category just a little bit better. It just doesn't work. As we witness the rapid, chaotic rise of foundational AI models today, the boardrooms of every major corporation are facing these exact same high-stakes dilemmas. Which legacy tech giants are desperately clinging to the past, and which are applying these 9 rules to aggressively disrupt themselves and dominate the future? We'll have to wait and see, but subscribe so you don't miss an episode.